back to the channel. Last week I had the opportunity to shoot a football game on 35mm film. It was an amazing experience and I am here today to share the experience of that. But first, a quick backstory on the game itself. It was between the Scottish club Hibernian Football Club, and I've worked with them before, and the German team Rot-Weiss Essen. It was a pre-season friendly between the two clubs, but it was commemorating Hibernian's first appearance in the European Cup back in 1955, which they played against Essen, which is why they had this game. So I was there to cover the game on 35mm film. I think using film for this kind of match just works. Obviously, for the historical nature, using film just makes sense, but also as part of an ongoing series I've got shooting football on film. If you check out my portfolio, link will be in the description. You can see a lot of the other games I've done. I've also done 2 other videos on this channel about this subject. So I had about a week's notice before the game itself to actually gather up my equipment. So I went for my usual roundup of cameras that I use, which is my Canon A1 and my Praktica MTL50. I use my Canon A1 with the Canon FD 50mm lens just to sort of capture wider shots and atmosphere shots, shots of people, things like that. And then I use my Praktica because on that camera I got a 70 to 210mm lens, which I use for pictures of the games, pictures of the players, things that are further in the distance. So those are the 2 cameras that I use most of the time. I also bought online a rain cover. It's like a plastic bag basically, just in case it was going to rain, because it was forecasted to rain for that day. It ended up being a really lovely sunny evening, so that was not needed, thankfully, but I got it just in case. The film I used for this project was Candido 800 film, which is quickly becoming my go-to film for this sort of sports project. Obviously, you need a higher ISO because you're going to be shooting at really high and fast shutter speeds, 1,000 for 1/500 for the second minimum, because obviously you want to freeze the action when you're doing something like football, so you'll need a higher ISO. And as I'm sure you know, films that are 800 ISO or more, especially color films, can run very expensive. So Candido is a really nice option because it's very affordable and produces some really beautiful images. It's famous for its red halation effect, similar to Sinister, which I know is quite polarizing in the film community, but for this sort of project where I'm going for a more cinematic look, they are more than welcome in my photos. I showed up about 20 minutes before the game, which is a bit later than I would have liked to, but I had some delays just before that, but it was more than enough time to soak up a bit of the atmosphere. And this is where a member of the staff at Hibernian told me that there were going to be flares from the Essen fans. And I'm really glad he told me that, because if not, I would have been stuck in the middle of the smoke. So I moved a bit further away and I got some general atmosphere shots of the fans and the stadium. The Essen fans were just absolutely mental and loud for the whole 90 minutes of the game, so they sort of became my main focal point. But before the game, I got pictures of them and of the Hibs crowd, and just before kickoff, the Essen fans lit up their flares, and I managed to get some pictures of that, which actually are some of my favorite. It was quite hard to get all the pictures I wanted. This is where I sort of regretted bringing only a 50mm lens. I would have done better maybe with my 28mm lens that I have, but I still am pretty happy with these images. After that, I grabbed my little stool and took my positions just behind the pitch, where I started shooting pictures. I was asked by the club to mainly shoot fans and the atmosphere, just because it was a sort of special game that they wanted to use the pictures for that, but I always try and use around 5 or 6 pictures from each role to capture some actual gameplay. Pictures of the players on the pitch, pictures of them celebrating, things like that, just because, one, they're good for my portfolio and they're always good for the club to have. After a while, I decided to attach a flash to my Canon A1. This is the Praktica 1600A. It's a pretty small flash. It came obviously with my Praktica camera, but it's really portable and it does pack quite a punch, which is sort of what I wanted. I didn't want a huge flash. One, it gets in the way of the camera. I'm having to shoot really quickly in this sort of event. I haven't got time to carry around a big camera setup. And also, I don't want to distract the fans or blind them with a huge flash. I want to be as subtle and discreet as possible because I don't want to get in the way of them watching the game. So this was a really good option for me. And these are some of my favorite images. I've been really getting into flash photography, and I just think getting people, especially a sort of action shot with a flash, it just creates a look that I've been a really big fan of, and especially this picture is one that I really like. Hibs scored twice during the first half, so I managed to get a few pictures of their fans celebrating, which I really like. They were sort of in this golden light because the sun was just over the stadium at this point. It started to set, but it sort of bathed them in this really nice, warm evening light. So that was the perfect opportunity to shoot some pictures of them. Obviously they were quite far away, but I still managed to get some pretty decent close-ups with that 210mm lens. A quick note on the lighting: it was actually really difficult to shoot, I thought, because the sun kept setting and they kept changing all the time, the lighting conditions, so I kept having to adjust my exposures. And a lot of it was sort of guesswork because I had my light meter on my phone, and then I was using the light meter on my actual film cameras, and then I was using my Canon DSLR camera, the one I'm shooting with right now, to sort of test which settings would work best, and they all gave me different settings. So I sort of found the happy balance between all of them, and I'm happy with 99% of the exposures on these images, so I got pretty lucky there. The basic rule of thumb I did was I copied the DSLRs because I could see the direct image, and then overexposed it by a stop just to be on the safe side, and I'm really glad I did because a few of the pictures are just on the border of being a bit too dark for my liking, so I could have even overexposed these 2 stops over. The Essen fans, as I've said, were just absolutely mental, so I kept wanting to try and get pictures of them. I really liked the guy who was holding the megaphone. He was sort of leading the crowd. He was really fun to shoot just because he really didn't mind being shot. There were a few people who didn't want to be on camera, which was a bit annoying because they were often right behind me or exactly where I wanted to shoot. But at the end of the day, I will respect people's privacy, so I did not shoot them. That is just part of photography and part of taking pictures at big events like this. Some people won't want to be on camera. Essen did score a goal and the fans went absolutely crazy. Here are a few pictures of that, once again with the flash, and I was really happy once again to have the flash. I think capturing action shots with so much passion just look better with a flash. The exposure looks better, the colors are punchy, and yeah, these are definitely, as I've already said, my favorite photos. The game was absolutely crazy. It ended 2-1 for Hibernian, but I mean, the Essen fans were crazy. The Hibs fans put on a good show as well. It was such perfect shooting conditions other than the tricky lighting. It was most of the time beautiful sunset, golden hour lighting. It was warm. Both fans were amazing, and most of the times they really enjoyed having their photos taken, which makes my life a lot easier. Shooting for someone like a football club is just really fun because I love football, I also love film, and I love the combination of the two. I think especially celebrating a match that holds historical significance like this one, being able to combine my two sort of loves is just such a fun thing and a real privilege for me. I plan on making more videos about shooting sport on film, mainly football, but all sorts of sports, just because there's a bunch of little technicalities and little things that I've learnt along the way that I think could be useful for you if you plan on doing it. So if that is something you'd be interested in, leave me a comment. Also, if you have any questions about this shoot, about the game, or about shooting film at sports events, please let me know. I'll try my best to answer those as well. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, my portfolio will be linked down below, and on the first page, if you scroll down, you will see more pictures from the Essen game and a few of the other football projects I've done. The pictures are also posted on my Instagram, which will also be linked down below. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you as usual next Saturday.